the right confidence, the right business plan, with some great connections moving forward, you can almost accomplish anything.
What's going on, guys? My name is Laine Dickey, and welcome back to another episode of Crushing It, a podcast dedicated to inspiring young individuals to pursue their passion by showcasing other individuals who are doing exactly that. Again, I'm your host, Laine Dickey, but before we jump into today's guest, I want to give a huge shout out to this season's sponsor, the Herb Keller Center for Entrepreneurship here on campus. They are the starting point and launchpad for everything related to entrepreneurship and startups. And whether you need founder resources, you're looking to pitch your startup to mentors and investors, or you need funding of some sort, they are the place to go. So make sure you check out the link in the description. And if you can't find anything to help you, leave a comment below and we'll go ahead and connect you. Today's guest is the founder and CEO of RevGum, a consumer packaged goods company that produces a caffeine-based energy chewing gum. Since its launch towards the end of 2018, they have sold over 5,000 packs of chewing gum across 40 stores in the Austin area. Please join me in welcoming the founder and CEO of RevGum, Blake Settle. Do you drink coffee?
Actually, I do have my occasional cup of coffee, probably once, twice, 3 times a week. Definitely it's a thing of old habits, but absolutely. I love a good cup of Joe. I go to a local coffee shop here called Anderson's where they source their beans pretty fresh, and I think I usually go with whatever special of the week they got going on there.
Okay.
But nothing in particular.
Okay, so you're sitting next to a guy that hates coffee. Like, I absolutely hate it because I hate the effects of it. So do you feel any after effects of drinking coffee?
The caffeine?
Yeah, like let me describe it for you. When
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
drink coffee, I'm in the restroom afterwards.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, do I have the product for you?
Okay.
got
What's that product?
Rev Energy Gum. So it's a caffeinated energy gum. It's got 100 milligrams of caffeine per piece, so just roughly about the same caffeine per cup of coffee. It's faster, 5 times faster than a cup of coffee, just because it's absorbed through your mouth, versus a cup of coffee. It's absorbed through your stomach lining, and you're drinking it over a long period of time, maybe 30, 45 minutes. But with Rev, it's just a real quick, easy pop, chew, and you're ready to go.
Okay, and what does it taste like?
We got a couple. Right now, only in stores is a more of a mint flavored, but coming out pretty soon, we'll have a spearmint and another version of a peppermint. So it's like it's not as tasty as a regular chewing gum, just because of the caffeine content. Caffeine's pretty bitter in nature, but it's roughly kind of the same as a normal gum, just not as tasty.
And I'm sure, like, before you started the startup, this wasn't like what you just like immediately got into. So like, where did all of this like begin for you?
Well, for me, I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I avoid kind of sugary drinks, lots of energy drinks, Red Bull and Monster, just to name a few. But I was in the PCL late one night at the library studying, and it's like 2 a.m, and I've always been a big coffee drinker. And so I just went on a search to find some coffee. I had a midterm the next day, and all the coffee shops were closed. And so I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? I'm going to fall asleep while studying my notes. And so the only thing that I could get was a vending machine, and they had a bunch of Monster energy drinks in there. And just because I'm a diabetic, they didn't have a low-carb version, and so I didn't drink those. I ended up just chewing normal gum for the night. And when I was chewing that gum, I was like, what if I could put some caffeine in the gum and just make it an energy gum, call it done? And I was like, I'm a chemistry major. I know some people. Why don't we look into this? And that's just kind of where it all started.
My biggest question when I see like food products, like I mentioned earlier, Elite Sweets and how they've created their donuts as well. Yeah. Like, my biggest question is like, when I'm looking at tech companies, it's like, oh, like you can build software out. Like, it's kind of like, it makes sense to me. But for food products, like, how do you go about actually building that? Like, what is the testing phase like? How are you even like coming up with some sort of formula to make it like what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. And in the beginning, that's kind of it's more of a tough thing to do, especially because, you've never been in this industry. You got this idea, and it's like, how do I go from this idea to an actual product? So in that 3-week period, I just took a deep dive, try to make myself as knowledgeable as possible on chewing gum, the history of chewing gum, how it's made, how different versions of it are. Went to the PCL, 5th floor of the library, just read every textbook I could on flavoring and polyols. Really just try to get myself more knowledgeable on the subject. And from there, you're able to see consistencies and read articles online. And chewing gum it's not rocket science. Definitely, I would say coding's a lot harder to do. It's a pretty simple thing. And so I, being a chemistry major, I went to some chemistry mentors and some professors and, just said, hey, what do you think about this? What's, is this going to be dangerous? How is this? And from there, I was able to just kind of put a couple mock-up formulas together. And I was like, all right, I ordered a couple kits online to make in my kitchen, some chewing gum in my kitchen. And very quickly I realized, that's not the route I need to take. I'm never going to be able to produce it in my kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I looked around and I reached out to, 20, 30 different manufacturers of confectionery goods around the United States and, just tried to talk to them about, hey, I got a formula of this new chewing gum that I want to get produced. What do you think? And eventually down the road, we were able to pick up one where he's like, all right, we'll give it a shot, but I think this is what you're missing here, and this is what you're missing here. I was like, all right, well, I'll throw that into the formula. If you'd produce some samples, I'd get a test going, and we'll see. And so this one manufacturer produced about 12 to 13 different iterations of this gum and shipped it down to me. And when I got it, I started testing all the different pieces. And don't get me wrong, some were terrible, some were all right. And then I landed on this one, and I was like, this is not that bad. I think we could make something of this. And from there, it just kind of went to different investors, friends, family, had them test it. And I'm like, hey, what do you think? Would you chew this? What do you think of the concept, the idea? And just kind of blew up from there.
Wait, so if we backtrack a little bit, before you sent it to the manufacturers, right? Like, how many times did you test it yourself?
See, I never actually built, because the chewing gum that we use now, it's a tableted chewing gum. So the process it requires some machinery. So I never got to test my formulas before I sent it out to the manufacturer. So it was just kind of a shot in the dark type of deal. And as a shot in the dark, it's chewing gum, so it's nothing too complicated. But all of them are pretty much along the same general principles. But I never had any of them. So.
Oh, okay. So you basically came up with it and sent it to them, and they kind of did iterations.
Iterations, correct.
Okay. And then once you got that back, what was your next step? You went to investors and stuff, but how did you end up getting your first sale?
My first sale, the actual sale of the gum.
Yeah, the actual sale of the gum.
Goodness. So that's, way down the road.
Okay.
Just because we went through production and packaging and design work and naming and legal capital raising. And so we actually didn't even sell our first product on shelves until probably 6 months later, in late August. We went to a couple stores with our final product and we're like, hey, would you mind testing this out, seeing if it sells? And we did that about 8 or 9 stores, just convincing store owners to give it a test. And that's kind of how we got our first sale.
What kind of stores?
Mostly convenience stores, little markets. There's a market in West Campus called Orange Market.
Oh, okay.
And so I went up I knew the owner there, and I was like, hey, Zane, you mind testing this out? Let's see if it sells. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it did. So we made something of it.
So what am I looking at right now? We have this gum right here, but what am I looking at right now?
That is our original flavor, so it's a pepperminty type deal, more of a mintish flavoring.
Okay.
It's our caffeinated gum.
And you said something about the fact that there's not as much sugar in this as there would be in a drink that gives you
just absolutely. So part of the benefit is it's a sugar-free gum, mm-hmm. So you're not taking in any sugar, which can be kind of a tricky thing, especially if you don't like the taste of coffee, sweetening it up with either sugar or milk or any of that, or any energy drinks. A lot of them are pretty high in sugar content. And so this was just kind of my way of going around the energy drinks and around the coffees. And it's more of a quantified measure of caffeine just from, each piece we know is 100 milligrams versus coffee. It can depend on how strong the brew is, how big of the cup. There's so many different factors, how long you drink it.
Would I become dependent on it?
No.
Okay, so,
no.
But why? Because, I don't know the science behind, why coffee
absolutely.
is addictive and whatnot, but, what's the difference between this and, drinking a cup of coffee?
So the same active ingredient, caffeine, is the active ingredient that gives you the energy boost. I mean, there's a lot of claims for different ingredients, but, the reason people drink coffee in the morning is the caffeine, and it's one of the most well-studied chemical compounds out there. It's just you enjoy your cup of coffee. but you're not physically dependent on it ever.
Because I mean, aren't like those people that are like basically addicted to caffeine? I mean, is that like a myth or something? Or I'm not sure like exactly what the science behind it is, but that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Caffeine itself is not a addictive substance. So, a lot of very strong drugs out there, prescription and not, you will physically go through withdrawals. And caffeine, you'll go through very mild withdrawals if you're consuming it all the time. But in whole, it's not a physically addictive. You won't break down at the end of the day. You might have some headaches, but you'll be fine.
So what are your marketing efforts looking like right now then? Like, how are you, like, besides like getting out into stores? Like, I saw your website's like really nice, but like, what are you doing besides that, like online?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our biggest goals with Rev is doing a product in hand. If we can give away the product, get the word out there, let people try it, taste it, especially with a new product like, an energy gum. People haven't really had it before. And so just letting them have the ability to try it and see for themselves, the convenience, being able to put it in your back pocket. That's a lot of our marketing is just, getting that out there, getting the word out there, letting people try it themselves. Another whole aspect of our marketing as far as like the advertising aspect goes, it's a lot of storefront. It's a lot of in-store advertising where you can actually influence the purchase of your product. So we try to go right next to 5 Hour Energy on the front of the shelf in stores just because, you're checking out, you're looking around, trying to get your last items, and, right there next to 5 Hour Energy now is Rev Energy Gum.
Do you run into any problems, like, because I feel like this would be a product you have to kind of, I don't know if it's fully, like, where you have to educate the customer on, like, what exactly it is, but have you run into any problems about, like, kind of getting that word out and explaining to people what exactly it is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a challenge. You have a caffeinated gum here, which it's tough because it's not a normal chewing gum, and I wouldn't expect people to chew it like a normal chewing gum. And it's in fact, we see ourselves more closely aligned with 5 Hour Energy.
Okay.
So getting people that in the mindset of I'm chewing this because I'm tired, or I need a little boost here, is more the challenge than your normal, hey, I'm going to chew this gum because I got bad breath, or I just want to chew this for the flavor. So getting that separation and really aligning ourselves with energy products, that's definitely a challenge that we see and that we continue to work on.
Okay, and this is one of my questions that, I was personally, intrigued by how you got, got these people to, help you kind of promote it. And it's, you have, people like Sam Ellinger and people like Brecken advertising. Is that, you're just friends with them, or, how did you kind of get them to advertise your brand?
Oh yeah, those are just my high school friends.
Oh, okay, so you hit the little you hit a gold mine there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit, and instead of talking about the product itself, along your journey of being an entrepreneur, because I read your bio and you were talking about how you've always been interested in building businesses. You've always had business ideas. So what's your journey been like before RevGum?
I would say I don't know, just as a kid, I was constantly trying to come up with new ideas and new business things. For example, me and one of my good friends decided we were going to make a Christmas tree pickup business where we'd go around and pick up your Christmas tree and take it away for a certain amount of money, or we'd go pick up your Christmas tree and deliver it to your house. Anything from that all the way to, at one point, my friend and I were building out a business model for a snow cone boat that drives around Lake Austin and delivers snow cones on the lake on a hot summer day. So any little ideas we could come up with, fishing lures, scented deer corn.
How did all these ideas how did you end up executing them?
None of them were executed properly, that's for sure. They were all rough ideas that we were playing around with, and I'd say Rev was the first one where we kind of carried all the way through and saw to market. But the ideas had always been there, and I've been fortunate to grow up in a community where I saw lots of successful entrepreneurs, and I got to hear their stories, and I got to go to them for advice, and the connections there. It's been super helpful along the way.
What have you learned? What's your biggest takeaway? The
biggest takeaway is that anything's possible, and that there may appear to be super high barriers. You may think, oh, somebody smarter could have done it, or a bigger company would already be acting on it. That's just simply not true. I think that if the right confidence, the right business plan, with some great connections moving forward, you can almost accomplish anything. And having that mindset, that attacking mindset, and the really think big, dream big mindset is definitely something that I would take away from a lot of them.
And I was looking through your Instagram, and like about a year ago, you were like you said, you were diagnosed with like type 1 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go through something like that, how do you kind of pick yourself back up and like get back on the horse and say like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm still gonna be pursuing my dream to like make this gum like, you know, the biggest thing in the world, make it like the alternate to like caffeine or like a cup of coffee. So how do you kind of get back on that horse? How do you power through that?
From getting diabetes itself?
Or not diabetes itself, but like, you know, having like that setback, like it doesn't just have to be diabetes. It could be anything, right?
Yeah,
like, there
absolutely.
are people that just like, you know, break their arm or something like that.
Absolutely.
And they feel like they can't do it anymore.
A lot of those are external factors that you just can't control. And so the only thing you can control is your reaction to it. And I believe that firmly. You know, you can sit and pout about it or be really upset, or you can use it to make you a better person and move forward. And, you know, diabetes was definitely something that actually, you know, as bad as it was and tough as it is, it actually helped me grow both mentally and spiritually. You know, it took me from a place where I was kind of messing around. I was just graduated from high school. I was about to go into college, and when I got it, I was like, okay, I need to be responsible. I got to take care of myself, and that kind of carried over to academics, and, you know, eventually it led me to the point where I saw a need in the market for a sugar-free energy gum. You know, so things can be tough at times, but if you have the right mindset and the right reaction, it can actually come out to your benefit. Absolutely.
And so what's next for RevGum? Like, what are you looking to see? Like, what are you trying to do next with it?
With Rev, we got a couple new flavors coming up in development right now that we're hoping to get produced. And when we get that, kind of, so to say, the last couple months have been a great test market. We got some great feedback from customers. So we're trying to improve upon that, and then once we feel like we got all of our ducks in a row and we're running a tight ship, really try to expand from there all over Austin and eventually Texas. And once we feel like we got a lot of the market share in Austin and then in Texas, we'll just continue to try to keep expanding.
Awesome, man. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences as well as your journey. Where can they find RevGum or like you on social media?
You can find RevGum on Instagram, RevGum Instagram. As far as finding the gum itself, we're on Amazon, or we're in about 40 to 50 stores around Austin, a lot of gas stations. Look in one of those, and hope you find it.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate you for having me.